Just by way of background, we've been around about a decade. Um, 100% of what we do, as Brendan said, is we facilitate micro-internships, which are short-term projects. And to be clear, these aren't intended to be replacement for summer internships or full-time roles or anything else, but very much used by organizations for two things. One, it's a great way to engage, assess, build relationships with college students who you may want to hire down the road. But two, they're also a way to get on-demand support for small professional projects, projects of the type that we all have on our to-do list, but not enough hours in a day or not the best use of our time. The students we know at CNM are excited to work on these projects. So what are micro-internships? We're going to share the slides. We're going to share the recording afterwards. So I'm going to try to hit through this relatively quickly. Micro-internships are, again, short-term paid professional projects. And when we think about them short-term, meaning these are tasks that take a student between 10 and 40 hours to complete, not per day or per week, but in total. So again, very, very bite-sized with defined deliverables. So it's not, I need help with marketing or I need help with sales. It might be something like, we're trying to do research of what our competitors are doing. Or I want to do more on Instagram. I need help with a social media content calendar. Can someone write a blog article or help me do research? And we'll show you some other examples. These can be done on demand. So you're not limited to the academic cycle. In fact, we see a lot of students working on micro-internships over their winter break. So while folks are home sipping hot chocolate and enjoying the holidays, they're able to come back in January with these finished deliverables. One thing that's also important to know is these projects are paid. This is important because it ensures every one of the students has access to these opportunities. And again, there's some great opportunities through some very generous support from CNM, sorry, can't talk, where you're able to, again, get help on these 25-hour projects and students are paid for their work and there's no cost for you. Some quick eligibility criteria information. This is exclusively, again, for current students at Central New Mexico Community College. They all have authorization to work, but again, we handle all of the back end. These aren't your employees, they're not your contractors. These students are, again, employees or contractors of Parker Dewey. They're on our books. We handle all of the payment. For organizations, any organization can participate, whether you're a for-profit entity, a nonprofit, a government organization, or really anyone. You can participate and post these projects as long as it's done by the end of the school year, which is, again, June 30th. I think it's meant to say 2026. Is that correct, Brendan? Cool. I'm sure I made a mistake on that. And again, can have multiple projects, work with multiple students. How do we do this? You're going to hear an overarching theme that Parker Dewey wants to make this as easy as possible, and that's by design. It is 3 steps. And again, we'll walk through these in detail. Post your project, pick who you want, the work gets done. When you are posting your project, you can use templates. Again, we want this to be easy. We have examples over and over of the variety of best practice templates that align specifically to the Central New Mexico program. These are, again, all projects that align to the criteria that I mentioned before. Define deliverable, offer valuable resource to you, provide a great experience for the student, and they're all scoped to require about 25 hours. Again, really simple. Annie, do you want to take over for me since I'm screwing it up, I'm sure?
All good. Thank you guys for my patience. Your patience with me. Zoom was not my friend this morning. I'd be happy to walk everybody through real quick to show you what it's gonna look like as you visit the CNM program page so that you know what to expect when you are if you created your account and you're able to log in. A big thing that a lot of people wonder is, I wanted to participate in this program. I wanted to work with a CNM student. Am I doing this right? And that way, you can feel more confident when you're doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and show you all the program page, which will be sent out if you don't already have this. And it includes all of those reminder details that Jeffrey reviewed with you all, the due date for the program. So you can post a project today. The students are starting to go on break, but I don't know about you, but when I know that there's a paid internship waiting for me, I'll often log in over break in my off times and see what's going on. So the students are really excited. So feel free to post now, even if the start date's after the holidays. Live it up. But you can see here that the project scope is 25 hours. The students will get paid about 550 for their work upon conclusion of the project. So when you are logging in, you'll be able to create an account. And again, it costs nothing for you to create an account. Let's see what page I am brought to today. This is my little admin screen. Show you what projects will look like. So when you're posting a project and logging in, you'll get this regular page. Jeffrey mentioned templates, right? So if you wanted to go back to some of those pre-scoped templates, I'd encourage you to go ahead back to the program page here, and you can scroll down a bit and see some of those examples he was mentioning. So if you're not quite sure what you would like a student to help you with, we've got some examples set up ready to go for you here that if you were to click them, they'll bring you to some of those examples, right? So it'll pre-populate with having the student do some website work for you, and you can tweak and edit this description as needed. If you were to scroll down, you can then go ahead and click the CNM program, and that will pre-populate those pieces that we mentioned, the 25 hours, the pay for the student. You don't have to always remember that. The CNM code will do that for you. It'll scroll down and make sure that the required questions are here, making sure that these students are the learners, all that good stuff. Conversely, if you wanted to do it from logging into your page, this is where I get the most questions of where were those templates again? Or I thought I had one. I clicked this and I don't see it. Well, you can start from scratch too. So say you wanted to do social media, reels, have a student do the reels, gonna type some things. I'll have them start and say, January, mid-January, when they're back on campus, excited to do things. I'm ready to give them some material to get going on making these reels. And I'll give them about a month to do it, right? Again, you can put these dates. I'm a small business, so I'll put NA, putting where I'm at. And then again, that program code comes into play, right? So I can go ahead and go here and find CNM, and it'll pre-populate those required aspects again. You can select the 25 hours, the 550, add any skills that might be great. I want them to know Instagram. And then you can move on to questions. Oh, I thought I clicked on my project size, silly. Okay, so you'll see that there's the required question for the program, and then you can add others, right? So if you wanted to learn a little bit more about the student's experience, maybe if they've maybe worked with Instagram before or created reels, or if maybe they're aligned with your organization's mission, right? I know there's a lot of nonprofits here today, so if you wanted a student to maybe have a tie to your mission in some way, that's a great question to ask. You can then post the project and it'll be awaiting approval by our team to make sure that you made all those CNM isms happen. So we're there to kind of be a double checking for you, as well as making sure that the project's doable in 25 hours, it's appropriate for the platform, all that jazz. So as long as there's nothing amiss there, it'll be approved and in front of the students pretty quickly, usually within 48 hours. And then if there is maybe a correction that needs to be made, maybe you need some more clarity on those deliverables and what's really expected of the student, that's when you'll hear from our team to support you in clarifying what the project looks like. If you're not ready yet to post, you maybe want to have somebody else look at it on your team or even email us to look at it before you move forward. You can save it as a draft and it'll be right here on your account as a draft. I'll go ahead and stop sharing now. Are there any questions about that how-to process? And I'll go ahead and add on to what Brendan shared to you, Delaney. Again, putting that program code is really key because then we know CNM. And a lot of you are local to Albuquerque, and so we also see that you're in Albuquerque, and we can assume you want to do CNM, and we'll put it on through. Um, You can submit more than one project. There's no cap on projects right now. And you can also work with the same student if you'd like. You maybe work with the student once and have a great time and realize it's a good fit and have another need. And funding's still available. You can go ahead and post again for the same student. You can work with multiple students on one project, right? So you could set it to maybe have two students working for you to do something. This is a great idea for anybody who is using the program to audition talent, right? My friend Emily here is going to talk a little bit more about that from a technical standpoint, but from a practical standpoint, you can go ahead and have your posting set up for more than one student and maybe have them do a project that would be similar to a full-time internship that you have that you're trying to audition these students to have for the summer. And then you can see how they do, right? It's not just having an interview and making sure that you can see what they do, right? See what the work is like before they come on for the summer. Not only helps you see what they're able to produce, but it also gives them an introduction to your organization, right? And what's expected of you in this area to be able to complete a full internship or a job with you. And with that, I'll go ahead and transition things to Emily to go over a bit more of the platform and how you can continue to use Parker Dewey for even more needs that you might have.
Could I,
Thanks.
sorry,
Oh, go
jump
ahead.
in real quick
Sorry,
and just
Lynn.
add one thing? My bad. Um, so for the projects themselves, we really, 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 really encourage that they're remote. Um, that you, when you have a initial meeting with a student that you select, you do it on the phone or with Zoom. We didn't want to completely close off an in-person avenue, but from C&M's perspective, this is not a Parker Dewey requirement. This is a C&M requirement. If you do choose to have them on site, you need to be able to demonstrate to C&M that they are covered by a workers' compensation and liability plan, which you can add a 1099 contract worker to, like film does it frequently. So there's just fewer hurdles from C&M's perspective if you want to do it remotely. But the answer is not a hard no. It's just our risk team and lawyer have said we need to ensure that the student has coverage. And so if you can demonstrate that you can provide that coverage, then you can have them in person. And if it is in person, there also are limitations from Parker Dewey's side. Not a ton, but like no power tools. Um, they can't be doing like heavy duty construction projects. I think working with people under the age of 18 is one of the restrictions as well. Um, Overall, it's very flexible, but there are a few things just to be aware of, and we just really encourage that you do it remotely from our perspective because it just makes everything a little easier. Sorry, Emily.
No, no. Please take all the time. Yes.
All good. I wanted to add on to what Brendan said too. Again, if you're not sure if something is appropriate for a micro intern to do, again, feel free to either let us know and email us, or you can go ahead and also just post. And like I said, we'll let you know if something's approved or not approved based on that criteria. So don't feel afraid about just shooting your shot in that regard and getting it up as we'll let you know if something's maybe not appropriate off the bat, or if, like Brendan said, we need some additional layers of conversation to go. But for the most part, again, I'm sure you all have plenty of ideas and opportunities for a student to work with your organization and continue to help you all with these different areas to really get some cool work done. These students are awesome. I've loved the past few iterations of this program and seeing what the students can do, seeing the feedback from the organizations. So again, if you're not sure what can I have a student do, we're here to help you with that too.
Okay, thanks. And thanks, Annie, for sort of talking about the program with CNM and all the details. I recognize that a lot of you are on the call are nonprofits and are interested in that specific project. If you feel like you need to hop off at this point, by all means, go right ahead. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on the employer side. I am the employer engagement specialist and a little bit more about what our platform can do if you have some significant hiring needs and are looking to use all the data that we have to offer. So if you feel like you got what you needed and you need to move on with your day, we understand. I know it's a busy time of year, but I'm going to spend some time now going a little bit deeper onto sort of the employer side and how all this data can support you. Okay, so when you're thinking about strategy for coming on campus, if you do hire early talent and you come to career fairs or you work with Brendan and his team, here's a few ways where Parker Dewey can support your hiring strategy. We're going to show you a few little screenshots from our platform. If Annie can advance, she's my technology gal today. Okay, great. So here you can start to see some data from our Parker Dewey platform. Because this particular employer here posted some projects prior to coming on campus for their career fair, they were able to have a pool of interested candidates right away. And so you're already seeing there kind of what the options are for meeting students even before you set foot on campus. And so we know that it can be challenging when you're lined up at a career fair or a recruiting event or some sort of industry day and students are kind of passing you by or walking by. Maybe they haven't heard of your brand name before, they're not familiar with what your organization does in the community. Post a micro internship prior to coming on campus and you'll start to get to meet CNM students before you even set foot. um, you can also get a look in our platform at some of the skills and tools and data, even geographic location. So it's possible that they're attending school here in Albuquerque, but potentially have a different hometown, or they plan to relocate or move on to a four-year school after at that point in time. And so you start to get that data too as to where they're located. So this is all very helpful in our platform. Okay, I think I'm ready to move on now. Thank you. Okay, so you may be wondering, how do I get started? I have these ideas. This is cool. This is free. I'm excited. I'm excited to work with Brandon's team. But here's an idea, a couple of examples I'm going to show you for how to take your maybe an open job description for an internship or a full-time job that's targeted at an entry-level candidate, and how we work to convert that into a few projects. And so you can see here for this junior developer, we were able to break down part of that job description into three distinct micro internship projects. The first being with user experience testing, which this will focus on enhancing the user experience by identifying usability issues and providing actionable feedback. The second project is in AI research, and this really leverages AI to innovate and improve client solutions along with the team's love for exploring and implementing advanced technologies. Now, the third project here you see is cybersecurity trends. So this project was helping to ensure coding practices and integrated current cybersecurity trends. And so you don't have to come up with this all on your own. We are happy to help you and work with you on this. If you just want to send me a job description, I'm happy to kind of take a stab at helping break it into some projects for you. Or if you don't have a job description, you just have a list of things you just need to get off your plate. Um, Sort of if I only had the free time, I'd love to do this. Let a micro intern help you with those projects. And if you have a couple thoughts like, hey, we could really use help with this upcoming event. I know they're going to be primarily remote, so maybe they're not going to work at the event, but can they help me with some vendor research? Can they help me call some food trucks? Can they help me put together a budget using Excel? So there's lots of ways that just for those ideas of things that you want to get off your plate, we can help you get that into action. On the next slide is just one more example, looking at an entry-level data marketer and a couple projects that resulted from that. So I'm not going to read all the details for you, but you kind of get the point of where I'm going right now. And so we call this experiential recruiting. And to us, this is the intersection of both skills-based hiring and employer branding. This helps organizations cut through the noise to reach the candidates who are aligned to their goals. And it also provides insights on skills to improve decision making. So you're not just looking at hire or don't hire solutions, but also those early stage decisions that usually just rely on GPA or major. So when you're thinking, okay, I just have a resume. I have a stack of 30 resumes. And how do I know what skills these students actually have based on them just claiming that they have them on their kind of single piece of paper? And in this economic environment, especially with nonprofits when budgets are tight, this is going to give you data to not only support your work, but also highlight and showcase it to other parts of the organization. This will help you get buy-in from senior leaders and be able to move things forward. So how do we do this? And why is this important? So we have assessment built right into the process. And so you're now able to see real proof from these key attributes. How can you judge professionalism when you just meet a student for a few minutes at a recruiting event? How are you able to understand empathy or coachability just during a quick phone screening? So by putting these projects into place, you'll also get a chance to review the student's work and offer them feedback. And so if you really are struggling to find candidates that have great attention to detail, you can find a lot of that to be quite telling in just those application questions that Annie showed you previously. We'll show you a couple of examples of that coming up. So I want to go over a couple case uses. So how do you know that this works? Again, I think Jeffrey mentioned we've been around 10 years, so we've had a lot of chance to kind of perfect this micro internship process and wanted to run a couple of examples of how some of our employer partners have benefited. And so in this case, we had a leading hospital system. They had two key challenges. They already had strong relationships with specific teams at some of their focus schools, but they were looking to hire not only for the traditional allied health positions that you think a hospital would look for, but also we're trying to now drive interest for students who are not thinking about healthcare, like maybe business majors, for example, who these recruiters were looking to connect with, but these students were starting to pass them by. So before visiting campus in the fall, they decided to post some micro internship projects. They did this both for their allied health projects, but also for projects tied to HR, accounting, and other areas. And so here's what happened. Before setting foot on campus, they were able, and then if you don't mind moving up just one slide for me, they were able to have a pool of candidates already excited to visit their booth, not just from that allied health, which would be the kind of stereotypical thought, but also from some of those business majors I just mentioned. And this gave a differentiator for them, not just to get them to the booth, but also to get them excited about what was happening and that they could make the best use of their time when connecting with the recruiters on site. So they weren't just having to spend the time with the typical elevator pitch, but rather were able to kind of talk more deeply about some of the projects that they have completed for them again. And while this was focused on the before campus visit, the same playbook will apply even if you yourself cannot get to campus. I want to share what happens after the event. And so the next situation was a global medical device company who had limited campus recruiting efforts. So this may feel familiar to some of you who don't maybe have a robust recruiting team that's going around to visit campuses. And so it was great that they were able to get students to come to some of their events, but they had some criteria that was a little bit challenging to meet. They had a strong interest in recruiting both student athletes and engineering majors, specifically for sales types of roles. And so these were difficult to fill positions. They were looking to find high volume sales rep roles. And so because they had some of these criteria like geographic ties and a student athlete, they were struggling to find a way to kind of break through. And so we created some business development auditions for them. And so they were able to approach recruiting from a slightly different point of view, where they were able to post projects in the system to help audition candidates for these business development roles. And so here's a look at some of the results. Not only was it successful with all the traditional metrics like email open rates and click-throughs and participation in their events, but they saw a huge improvement in the metrics that matter. So beyond just keeping the students engaged, they were also able to quickly determine who was the best fit and allowed them to focus on those candidates because they have now seen examples of their work through these sales auditions. And so as a result, for that particular class of students that they recruited, 100% were still at the company within a year and a half later, which is very unusual for sales positions. Actually, one of their students won the Employee of the Year award, which was very cool. And so often for sales roles, for entry-level sales roles, first-year attrition is something like 50%. I'm sorry, more like 70 to 80%, but they were able to keep almost all their students engaged after a year and a half. So, plus the hiring managers were really happy because they didn't, in their own words, like waste time trying to interview the wrong folks. And really, they felt like they had the confidence that the students that they were bringing in were going to be better long-term fits. Here we have an example with a national fitness chain. And so a lot of students recognize them for their brand in the gym industry, but weren't really considering them for corporate roles. And so they were struggling to get through the applicant volume and to make sure that students were actually applying for their corporate positions versus their gym positions. And so what they did there was have hiring managers share a couple of small tasks. So I talked a little bit earlier about those examples of employers that use micro internships to get things off their plate. And so hiring managers really appreciated this support and were using the campus recruiting efforts to still build their pipeline. And in one case, their L&D team was looking for best practices for new employee onboarding. And so they selected two different students to do the project. One was an HR major with a 3.9 GPA, and the other was a business student from a less prestigious program. And so here's what happened. It might surprise you. Okay, so here is the Annie showed you in the platform a few minutes ago how they can answer application questions. And so this was some of we see both their application questions and how they answered, but also some of their deliverables here. And so the HR major had typos, had some grammatical errors, maybe things that would be tough to notice during a phone screen or a typical on-campus visit, where the student who maybe wouldn't have gotten a shot based on their resume because they didn't come from the same strong HR program wound up having the better deliverable. And so as a result, when we fast forward to the situation, that particular candidate was hired for a summer internship and then was able to transition for a full-time role with the company. And the hiring manager shared with us after the fact that they never would have considered students from this program before, and now they felt like they have access to a whole new population of students. So that was a real big win for us. Our last example is about data. And so whether or not you can be on campus yourself, this is data to help you guide your decisions and data to demonstrate the effectiveness of your work internally. This was a global Fortune 500 water technology company who didn't have the ability to come on campus as much. They were trying to defend the cost and the time and the budget that it took to be there, but the team was looking to see it scale. And so they had their headquarters was actually located in a different state. And so they were also focused on very specific initiatives. And so they actually partnered with their employee resource group to look beyond traditional recruiting events. And so here's what happened. First, they were able to reach the right candidates from a geographical perspective, not just from their HQ in a different location, but also students tied to markets that they had not thought about before, smaller markets at other schools. This could really help defend the cost and allow them to share the cost per school, which was great. And then they were also able to report back to their senior leadership how this was a benefit. And so this doesn't really ever happen with HR initiatives. Oftentimes they're going at it alone when they're trying to pilot new opportunities. And so they were able to show actual data with their leadership team, which was able to create more buy-in for future projects like this. Okay, so I shared a bunch of examples for you, and so I just also wanted to share the impact. And so 80% of our micro interns are from underrepresented groups. All of our micro internship projects are paid. You're seeing right here that employers are realizing a really great cost savings, so in some ways up to 80%. And then the all-important retention rate, 98% of recent grads who complete a micro internship. And so these are all real results and results that matter for hiring managers that have responsibility not only for finding great talent for the organization, but doing it in a cost-effective way in today's changing economy. So just wanted to share some numbers there. So again, there's a free trial. There's an opportunity if you're looking to do some more significant hiring beyond the program that we have with Central New Mexico. You do get a free trial of our Parker Dewey platform, where you also get access to see all of this customer intelligence platform, which is how Jeffrey likes to refer to it, and get to have, once you start to see projects posted in the system, you'll be able to start to see data over time. And so this is really helpful, and wanted to show you a bit of what that looks like. Okay, so next steps. So if you have any questions, you can let us know. Again, I'm the employer engagement specialist. I'm really easy to reach. I'm just at emily@parkerdewey.com. Happy to put that into the chat. If you want help posting or you have questions or whatever the case may be, you're welcome to reach out to me as well as Annie. But other than that, we look forward to supporting your recruiting needs and for seeing great projects for CNM students. If you have any other, I see that's been a very active chat while I was talking, a mile a minute. But if there's any other questions, you can feel free to put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we'd be happy to let you ask your question as well. Brendan, did we miss anything? Anything else that we need to cover? Any other questions?
I don't think so. Again, for our stuff specifically, folks, it's really the non-Parker Dewey folks, sorry. Or just a panelists. No, we're panelists. What are they called? Attendees. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very streamlined. Parker Dewey basically supports stuff on the back end. Annie gets way more emails from me than she ever wanted. But yeah, you go, you post, they'll let you know if there's any problems. My team does outreach to CNM students to apply. It's pretty, you don't have to go under contract with CNM or Parker Dewey. We're contracted, so you just take advantage of that opportunity to post these projects. There's not a lack of funding. We just got a new contract that goes to the end of June, and we have a ton of money to spend, so we'd love to support your projects. yeah, people are welcome to reach out to Annie or Emily or myself with questions. And if it needs to go to the other person, we'll just pass it along.
And I'm pretty sure we probably mentioned this today, but I also just want to give it a final notice that, you get these students through these free projects. And if you're interested in bringing them on permanently to your team, there's no conversion fee or cost or anything like that. We're not a staffing firm, and so we don't charge you a fee. You bring a student on for a project or maybe multiple projects, as Annie mentioned, and you're like, you know what, they fit really well, and we have an opening for full-time role. By all means, feel free to bring them on board. Okay, seeing no more questions, we will let you all go and enjoy your afternoon. Wishing everyone a happy holiday season. Thank you for all your time, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Emily, Annie, do you have like 3 minutes
Yep.
after this, or okay? Because if not, we can totally reconnect in the new year.